And when he rang the doorbell, all my anxiety, like there was this rush of energies. And then my baby was wailing at the top of her voice. She's never done that before, like in the whole of birth until, 3 months after she was born. And I realized that something was at work there. And, it was like, anxiety was like sky high, like out of that whole entire building, and it was spilling over, that fear. And I realized that something had to be done because I knew that it wasn't my energy, it wasn't my fear. And it was like really in the collective of all my family members added up. And that's when I started to look for something to help me. And I had earlier on listened and shared, with some friends whom, they were talking about, hey, there's this new modality, you should go learn it.
Halo, apa kabar teman-teman Urban Dukun? Selamat datang di acara podcast kami. Terima kasih banyak Anda sudah meluangkan hal yang paling berharga dalam hidup Anda untuk mendengarkan kami. Yang paling berharga dalam hidup Anda saat ini adalah waktu. Waktu tidak bisa kita ulang, waktu tidak bisa dibeli, dan waktu tidak bisa diputar. Jadi, hari ini saya ingin sekali memperkenalkan kepada teman-teman sebuah modalitas penyembuhan baru ada di Indonesia yang sangat cepat, sangat singkat, dan sangat efektif. Sehingga kita semua bisa menggunakan waktu kita untuk hal-hal lain yang lebih membahagiakan. Kita bisa menggunakan waktu kita untuk diri kita sendiri, kita bisa menggunakan lebih banyak waktu untuk keluarga, dan kita bisa lebih banyak waktu untuk bekerja dan mencapai aktualisasi diri. Saya Karmen, saya adalah founder dari Urban Dukun. Urban Dukun selalu berusaha memberikan tempat yang aman, menjadikan Anda dalam kondisi yang nyaman, sehingga Anda bisa memulai perjalanan penyembuhan, yaitu perjalanan ke dalam diri Anda sendiri. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Scarlett from Singapore. She is here to introduce a new modality called Enegry Shifts and Insights. So with this new modality, what is for me very prominent about this modality is that it's really fast. Like really fast. So without further ado, welcome Scarlett.
Thank you, Karmen.
Please introduce yourself to our friends Urban Dukun here.
So I'm Scarlett from Singapore, and I've been doing this for 11 years actually, and maybe I can share a little bit about how it all started.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah. So actually, I was in the corporate world for a long time, about 10 years. And I was actually doing events, and through events we're creating bonding, community, culture, and all of that. And then I went into what we would call, commonly known as Dark Night of the Soul. And so all that anxiety about who I am, whether I have a purpose, and what am I really here for? All these questions started coming. And I went for a 1-year sabbatical. And during that sabbatical, it was really interesting. I took a pilgrimage in Japan, and that kind of opened up my intuition, following my own inner voice. And then I became a single unwed mother, and I returned to Singapore. And then from that point onwards, the healing really needed to start. So it was really interesting. I came across energy healing when I was dealing with my family's anxieties, their fears, how society is going to look at me, whether it's going to be okay or not, and all the fear in my family about what it means to my father, actually. So this is the first time we're talking in such a official setting about this matter. And what happened was, because my father was really very traditional in the eyes of my family. So I come from a family of 5 girls. I'm one of 5 sisters. So you can imagine coming from a Chinese family. And then, even though Singapore is very modern, but at the same time, we are still Asians, right?
Yeah, tell us more about that. I mean, I know we're friends with a lot of Singaporeans, but maybe the audience think of Singapore differently than we do.
Yeah, so even though Singapore is very modern in its outlook, at the same time, because we are all coming from a very traditional Asian background, whether it's Indian, Malay, Chinese, or a mixture of all of these. And ultimately, because our parents' generation, they grew up from more strict upbringing. So the things that we're doing now, and I feel like in the current environment, a lot of people are going through that because relationships have changed a lot over the years with social media, with traveling, with technology. So the way that people connect, the way that relationships form, and the way that relationships may change form has, changed a lot over the years. But in those times, it's still very, and I would say even for now, there are some, very deeply rooted and ingrained belief system about what is okay or not okay, what is acceptable or not acceptable. So when I first became a single unwed mother, I had intended to tell everybody in my family all at the same time so that there's no stress on any one person.
There's a lot of shock, I believe.
There was a lot of shock, and there was a lot of interesting twists for me as well. I had returned to Singapore on actually just before the Mid-Autumn Festival. So for the Mid-Autumn Festival, it's a time of gathering. There would usually be a family dinner, and we'll sit down and have mooncakes. But what happened that particular year, it was really interesting. It was like the universe was arranging it. And I couldn't because apparently my sisters had some kind of run-in, and then there was some kind of a mishap, and they say, there's no dinner this year. And I was like, oh, how do I tell and how do I break the news, So I had to do it one by one. I first told my sister, and then my sister said, let's talk to my other sisters, and then they said, let's talk to mom, and then they say, let's not tell father, and then everything had to be kept under wraps. So it was crazy, and I didn't realize the anxiety that was building up until almost, let's say, I think that was maybe nearly a year after, but 3 months after I gave birth to my daughter. So my father still didn't know about this. And one day he actually came because I was staying at my sister's place, incognito at that time, and he actually turned up at the door. And when he rang the doorbell, all my anxiety, like there was this rush of energies, and then my baby was wailing at the top of her voice. She's never done that before, like in the whole of birth until 3 months after she was born. And I realized that something was at work there, and it was like anxiety was like sky high, like out of that whole entire building, and it was spilling over, that fear. And I realized that something had to be done because I knew that it wasn't my energy, it wasn't my fear. And it was like really in the collective of all my family members added up. And that's when I started to look for something to help me. And I had earlier on listened and shared, with some friends whom, they were talking about, hey, there's this new modality, you should go learn it. And I'm like, okay, it sounds too good to be true.
So this is about, your daughter's 12, right? So this is about 12, 13 years ago.
This was actually 13 years ago. 12 years ago. Yeah, so my daughter is 12 this year. So
okay. So during that time,
yes.
I'm just elaborating it for our friends Urban Dukun. 12 tahun yang lalu, itu kalau orang itu jadi ibu dan dia memutuskan untuk tidak menikah, bahkan di Singapura itu menjadi sesuatu yang sangat what do you call what's your family's experiencing at that time, knowing the news that you deliberately choose to be a single mother, right?
Yeah, so
parent.
I became a single mother, and it's almost like it was all very interesting. I mean, from a let's say a more spiritual perspective, it would have been something that was kind of in the blueprint. There were many synchronicities that led up to it. And I decided consciously at that point in time, with all of the signs that was given to me, I said that, okay, I'm going to keep this child for sure because her life force was so strong. And so then what followed, it was all about unraveling and doing something that hasn't been done before. It seems unacceptable. And it was a lot of fear in the family. There was a lot of shame that wasn't talked about. Yeah.
Yes, and then, so your father entered the building. I'm in suspense.
So my father did not know, like he was kept in the dark throughout. And it was only after that incident, and he was still like kept away from the story. So then what happened was that day itself, I was actually supposed to bring my baby. We were supposed to attend a friend's son's birthday party. And after he left, I just couldn't, like, I was shaking inside of me for half an hour. I couldn't step out of the house. I couldn't stay in the house either. Everything was just amplified. The fear was amplified. So because of that, I decided that I needed help. And I needed to see someone who could help me, do something about this. Because somehow in me, I knew that it wasn't mine. Because from the point that I was pregnant until that time that the incident happened, I did not have any fear at all. Yeah. So it was very interesting that it unfolded that way. So then finally I went to an energy practitioner, and he actually supported me to help me shift out of this. And I thought, like, wow, like how did this happen so quickly, right? In just a matter of a session, and things started changing. I felt different. And then he said that, you're very intuitive. Why don't you learn this? And I said, okay, I'm going to learn this method. And after I learned this method, and after a few things that happened, like we were strengthening, and finally I had to tell my father about this, had to come clean.
He did not know that there was a baby in the room.
He did not know, yeah.
Okay.
So finally when I told him, actually, because I was doing this modality, I was listening to my intuition, I knew what I had to do. So then finally when I finally told him, there was none of the usual reaction that my family was expecting of him. There wasn't any temple blow up. There wasn't any questioning. There was no drama. Yeah. So
no drama.
No drama
That's
at all. Zero.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. And he accepted it. Like, he really accepted it. My family was so shocked. And then one of my sisters even commented and said, "See, I knew he loved you most." And I laughed because I didn't think it was true in that sense. He's always been proud of me, but I felt like they did not know what I had to do in the background in terms of the energy work. Yeah, that resulted in that very neutral and open-hearted acceptance. And it was all because of energy shifts.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing, not just for you. And you do the shift for yourself, right?
At that point in time, because I had the practitioner who then taught me the method, and then I was also practicing it myself. Yeah, because I learned the method. So there was a lot of preparation before I finally told him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I had to shift a lot of people. I had to shift myself. I had to shift my father. I have to shift my entire family. Yeah.
You shift your whole entire family.
Yes, without telling them.
Oh, this is nice.
But of course, it was like I'm the main person I'm shifting, because as I do it, right, then I'm working on myself in relation to my family, and because I worked on myself, they shifted. Whatever perception I had of them shifted, and then they shifted as a result.
This is a very important bit because the most important person to shift is ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then everything else will follow somehow after that.
Yeah.
We talk about shifting. Kayak mindahin aja gitu. A jadi B, B jadi A gitu ya. Like shifting is like moving one object to the other. And we're talking about something intangible.
Yes. And it's almost like, when you just imagine, like, if you're in this space, right here, and you're stuck in a certain mode of your own usual way of being, and imagine you just take one step, it changes things. So in a space of being stuck, in a space of disbelief, in a space of despair, in a space of being angry and upset, if you could just take a shift, and then you can come into that sense of something more possible, something more uplifting, something more positive, something more accepting of who we are, and then the world changes.
What shifts actually?
What shifts?
What shifts?
It's actually an awareness. It's actually also what's in our energy field. Because as I we call this energy shifts and insights. So it's really about the energy that you're in, because a lot of times we're all steeped in a certain energy field that has all the information that's around us. And therefore the information is inside us, is outside us, is pressing on us, and we're just expressing what is in this field of energy that we have. So actually what's shifting is an awareness that then dispels any of these thought forms, frequencies, and usual energy pattern that we're in, and then it changes.
And when she said it changes, it really changes within seconds. So maybe we should dig in more about what is energy.
Well, what is energy? Wow, that's a huge topic, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Albert Einstein has said it. Everything is energy. Nikola Tesla has said it. Everything is about energy. You want to change your world, you look at energy. And all of us are actually holographic in nature in that sense. But what's actually inside of the cells is actually an energy vortex. And all the different cells within us is creating this sense of solidity of who we really are. But ultimately, when we look at the entirety of the universe, everything is actually explained by energy. That's quantum physics.
So it is important to have that understanding of what is energy, and that you are also energy. Everything else is energy.
Everything is energy.
Everything is energy.
Everything is energy.
Then you can make a quick shift.
Yes. Yeah. If you just change this pattern inside of yourself. So a lot of the quantum physicists, they would explain it better than me. It's called the double slit experiment, where they observe a particle and it doesn't, initially it doesn't move, right? But once you add in an observer and an observation of it, it starts to move, it starts to change. It's a wave. So, we always talk about intention, we always talk about our thoughts creating our reality.
Right.
And that's actually what's happening. Because that thought that we have, that intention of that, I want to see that happen, right? And then you start seeing that. Because it's like you think of like the blue elephant, right? And then you see a blue elephant in your imagination. And if you're looking for people who are angry with you, you will find someone who's angry with you somehow. If you're saying that suddenly you have an awareness of, let's say, a rainbow unicorn, right? And suddenly everywhere you go, you spot a rainbow unicorn somewhere.
So having the awareness of something,
Yes.
then you start seeing it
Yes.
happening in your life.
Yes.
Okay. In the story of your story, definitely, you have this, and this wasn't even your fear. It was the fear of those around you.
Yeah.
It was a mass fear
Yes.
that if somebody,
Yes.
a woman, does something unacceptable,
Yes.
it's gonna cause chaos,
Yes.
huge blowout,
Yes.
and that we know cause a lot of trauma in women and also in the child. But you managed to avoid all that because you shift your energy,
Yes.
and you had a different outcome.
Yes. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds that it happened. So it is possible. It happened.
Yes.
So in what other circumstances do you experience that the shift helps a lot of people?
Wow, I mean, so many ways energy shift can help people. I have clients who, they have long time resentment towards their family members, for example, or maybe they are stuck in a pattern with different partners that they have. So when we actually look at it from an energetic perspective, we are able to unravel what's actually happening behind. So sometimes you find that it's the belief system. Sometimes you find that it's the entire, mass collective consciousness about what should be the right way that's stopping them to actually follow what they truly believe in and their communication patterns. And a lot of times I also find that what's happening also is that the clients that come to me somehow, they are really wanting a different way of being. They are really looking to love themselves unconditionally, and the circumstances in their life are actually forcing them in a way to address that. So whatever is happening to them, it seems to be that circumstances forced it upon them. But a lot of times when we look at it energetically, we know that there's something at the root cause, which could be their own personal experience in the past that has solidified a certain belief in them. And then sometimes, they have misunderstanding of, let's say, their loved one, their parent, or even their children. And you find that it's because of, a certain entanglement in their thought form. It's a certain emotion that's attached to what's happening there.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we shift that, things can start to change. And then when we look at what's really happening on the other side, because through the energy, we can also sense into, a lot of times we have that my problem is you mentality, right? So it's like, my father did this, my mom did that. And
put the finger outside.
Yes. And when we look at it, they would think that it's because, they would have this perception and this anger towards this person. And then when we look at it energetically, a lot of times what I find is that it's very interesting because whatever perception they have of this person, it may not be true at all. So when we look at it energetically, I can actually also gather insights about what's really happening on the other side. How is that person really feeling? What is the energy that the other person is actually emitting from? And then from there, when I give them that understanding, a lot of times there is a lot of forgiveness. There's a lot of compassionate unraveling of, on the other side, it's not easy for the other person as well. The other person actually feels really sorry about whatever has happened. But, whether there's a possibility to move into something more positive, or maybe it's better that they dissolve that connection, all this shows up energetically. So it supports them to really understand what's going on and then to have a fresh chance to let go of the past.
Yeah, so I also pick up that you bring them to neutrality at least.
Yes.
Yeah, and then option secure.
Yes.
My last question for this time.
Yes.
We'll talk more next time.
Yeah.
This is so interesting, and I hope Scarlett gets to show you how it's done. What do you think about money?
What do I think about money?
Yeah, share us any experiences with your clients, because I know that it's a big issue right now.
Wow, money is a huge topic. It's a huge topic. There is a lot of fear around money.
Yes.
Like whether you have a lot of money or you have no money,
yes,
there is a lot of fear. And it's interesting because there are so many definitions around money that everyone has picked up on a mass consciousness level. And that really, it really kind of like entangles us into this ball of like, like we don't really know what to think about money. And even for people who have worked through money beliefs for a long time, limiting beliefs about money, it still comes up, from time and again.
Yes.
Simply because the world works around this form of exchange. And because as the world continue to grow, as the world continue to change, and even in this time, because things have shifted a lot since COVID, and the economy is changing once again. Now, money can be made so easily, like crypto, right?
Right.
And then at the same time, there are still that sense of money has to be traditionally made, and it has to be step by step. And then there's legacy, and then there is you can quickly earn a lot. You can also quickly lose a lot. So the changing ways of how money is made and how it's circulated is right now also causing a lot of anxiety.
Yes. So, if you can just go really quick.
Yeah.
As we are closing soon.
Yes.
Maybe you can help our audience a little bit on what to
Yeah.
relieve that anxiety.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm just gonna strengthen everybody. We're gonna disconnect from whatever we think about money as, and I'm strengthening everybody to be strong, to just accepting various definitions, new ways of being, embracing who we truly are first, and then also being open to how money can come to us in different ways, and that life supports us most of all. most importantly, life itself supports us. Money is not the one supporting us. Life supports us. Money is one form of life. And I feel like that itself already opens up the anxiety that a lot of us have about money.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I hope you're feeling it, because I'm feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. Everybody in the studio is feeling it. And this is our first podcast with Scarlett. But we're going to come back and we're going to tell you more about energy shift and insight.